he really took a moment. He turned the room off and he really looked me in the eye and he stood close to me and he held my gaze, and I feel like I really connected with him. And he's masterful at it. And I don't want to sell myself short, because obviously in order to get to the point where I have in my career, everybody has to be good at that sort of a thing. But where that can be very intimidating for me, at a point when nobody knows who you are, you just kind of move how you move through a room. But once you get to a point where people understand, like, oh, that's the guy that, whatever I was doing in the past or whatever I'm doing in the future now, people start to recognize you, and they come with their own expectations of who you're supposed to be to them. For those familiar, think prosopagnosia, but a mild, case of that. And so remembering people's faces is very challenging for me. Add to that just like most folks, I'm not good with names.
Yeah.
And so I can remember an experience, I can remember an emotional imprint, but remembering you're the same person, if you have a different outfit or, a different haircut, I still watch cartoons because it's easy to follow the main character. They don't change their clothes. You go and change your clothes, you might look like a different person, not you.
True.
But, it takes a long time for me to really, and a lot of different experiences. And so when I'm in a room full of people, some of which might know me, some of which might not, it's very easy for me to, as Q refers to it, fry people. And people will come up and I just have no idea there, and they're talking and they're like, hey, remember this? And I'll be like, yeah. And I'm catching up to the conversation. And everybody deserves to be remembered. I think if nothing else, everyone deserves that. And sometimes I can't do that, and I don't want to hurt anybody. So I start to intimidate myself, like, oh, I might hurt someone. Let me not hurt anybody. Let me, and when Q's there, he's so good at that.
Picks up the cues.
Yeah, so I can usually stand behind Q in a space like that. I still have to, these people want to meet both of us. And so, to Q's point earlier when he said, that we have kind of a complementary thing that's not, we're not unlike each other, but we just work well together when we have to go places. And he's always known that about me, and he's always kind of jumped in and helped fill in that gap for me. And so, once you kind of cross over that point where, again, people start to recognize you, it can be a little bit overwhelming for a person like me, not for other people, I'm sure, but I don't want to hurt anybody. That's I would never, ever, ever do that to anybody. And yet I do it, from time
not on
to time.
purpose.
And it just feels awful. So
it is.
There's a reason. If I avoid people, there's a reason. I'm not just like,
now you know.
Yeah. So
I'm like that too. I have kind of bad memory. The worst is like from the 90s. I don't remember from the fucking 90s. I was doing ecstasy. I don't. Do you remember me? And I'm like, what did we do? That's like, I don't know. Yes, I don't remember. Like it's hard, but yeah. Thanks for explaining that.
Sure.
Now I don't feel so bad. Because I'm like, Ramses, we've been knowing each other for 20 something years. You're like,
no, so one of the things that really does help. One of the things that really does help is if a person has like, unique features or something about them that doesn't change moment to moment, typically I can latch onto those things. So I don't recall there ever being a point in time when I had to like get to know you.
Right.
So I don't know that I've had that experience per se.
No.
But I also kind of extend that same courtesy to other people that I do recognize that you might not remember me. And I know that I've been a person who, at least in the city where we live, has been one of the more celebrated people. I recognize that. I'm not feeling myself, but I just know it kind of comes with the work that I do.
Yes.
But I've never leaned into that, like, oh yeah, clearly these people are looking at me because they know who I am. No, there's any number of reasons people could look at me. I could be on stage with a microphone, as Q mentioned. I could be just existing in my normal life. I recognize that, or at least I hear it quite a bit, that I have a look that is something that is maybe captivating is the right word. So people will look.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that they know me. It doesn't mean that they want to talk to me. It doesn't mean anything. And they might know me and I don't know them. And, so I just, as a rule, kind of adopted an approach that I think spares people from having to deal with, some uncomfortable situations. So if that has ever happened, I promise it was me worried that you probably didn't remember me, not the other way around.
No,